Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis call, and this is in preparation for trading on February the 6th, 2018. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so we'll start off by taking a look at our Forex Factory calendar here. So today we saw some negative data from the pound, and we had talked about this last week, or we talked about it on Sunday. We had negative numbers, PMI numbers, manufacturing PMI numbers for the British pound in on the weekend there, and sorry, let me just. Sorry about that. So we had we have manufacturing PMI numbers that came out negative for British pound, and we had talked on the weekend about if we get more negative data here, we could see a drop in British pound. So we saw a drop there, and a big drop in pound yen as well, which was a lot of it was resulting from these negative numbers. And then we have US numbers, we had positive, so that was good there. And now we have RBA statements. So this week, the big thing will be the central bankers talking. So we have RBA statement coming up shortly. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, because we have retail sales that are negative. So central bank was concerned about the state of the economy in Australia. So they were not too keen on raising rates last time, so we'll have to see what Australia RBA has to say, and that could be negative if their commentary is dovish. If they're not feeling strongly about the economy, that would drive the Australian dollar down. So that's the main thing coming up right now. Then we do have here Whiteman speaking for the euro, but other than that, our session is fairly quiet. This trade balance numbers for Canada, and then in New Zealand we have employment data. So not a ton of high priority news today coming up for tomorrow. Today was a bigger day, and then later in the week we have more central bankers coming up. So let's go take a look at the charts. We had some nice moves to the downside. And now we are, unfortunately, a lot of that move has happened, so we'll have to wait for pullbacks and see if we can get a continuation move to the downside. So a big bearish candle close here. So this is bearish for Euro US dollar. Market direction is bearish. So let's take a look at where we could potentially get into a trade. So with the euro here, this is a good level, which is 1.2400, or we could even look at R1, which is a 1.2440-ish level, or up higher here into this level, a 1.2480-ish level. So these will be some of the good pullback levels, but I think there is there's quite a, we may just see this. So it may just pull back into the pivot point, 1.2400, and then drop further. So in this case, I'm looking for, the first target is a 1.2330 level, which is the bottom here, this previous bottom of the previous moves. So we are looking for, I'm looking for this to drop. So first target, 1.2330 level, and then below that, we could see it come lower into 1.2297. So 1.2300 will be our second target to the downside, and we could even have a third target, 1.2220 level. So those are the three targets to the downside. So I'm looking for price to push up into this pivot point, and then we could see a drop. But if you get a bigger pullback here, I'm still looking for a drop. So I've marked a couple of pullback levels here, but overall direction is to the downside. The bias is to the downside. And then we have this British pound here, big drop in the British pound. So now I'm looking for a further drop. So the bias is to the downside right now. And the target for this would be 1.3820 level. So in this case, I'm looking for a pullback again into the pivot point, or we could even see, if we see a move into 1.4 4080 level. That will be a good pullback level, but for now, if it only goes this level here, which actually, let me do a proper line here. So this one over here is a good level, which kind of is very close to our pivot point. So we'll just leave the pivot point there. So basically I'm looking for a pullback into the pivot point and then a drop. But for deeper pullback, it could go all the way into 1.4080. However, the bias is to the downside, so we may not get a move all the way back there. In that case, just looking for this pivot point, pull back into the pivot point 1.40 level, and then a further drop to the downside. In terms of the target here, looking for 1.3850. That will be the target to the downside here. So bias is to the downside in pound. Aussie as well, a huge move to the downside here. And let's see, where are we at here? So that's quite a drop here. Now this is still bearish here, looking for it to drop further. 0.7800 level will be the target to the downside here. Looking for a drop, but we do need to wait for the commentary out of RBA, because that could really drive the moves here. So this is bearish, Aussie dollar is bearish, and then looking for further drop here. So in this case, we could see a pullback either into pivot point, which is this previous support and resistance area. Right now, all the US dollar crosses are staying below the pivot point, but we could see it come higher up into this 79.50 level as well. But right now they just seem to be, so right now they're sitting at below pivot point, which suggests that they're likely to drop further. But because we have had some big moves to the downside, we could see a bit of pullbacks as well. So keep that in mind. Pullbacks do tend to happen, and we have to be prepared for them. But the bias is to the downside for Aussie dollar as well. Today was a good time to trade. I just didn't take it. I wasn't at my desk. So this one here, that's a bearish pin bar here, very nice bearish pin bar. So looking for a further drop in New Zealand here as well. So 71.97, so 7,200 will be the target for New Zealand dollar. Here as well, it's getting stuck at the pivot point, which is a good sign, because then chances are we'll move lower here. So looking for price to drop, and the target, like I said, 71, so 7,200 will be the target. So let me have a quick look to see if we have any. So we just have RBA. And that's in a couple of hours, but we don't have any New Zealand news. New Zealand does tend to move with Australian dollars. We do need to keep that in mind. Okay, over the weekend, we had looked at dollar CAD moving higher. So we have a big bullish close here. So US dollar finally has some strength here. So right now, looking for price to pull up higher into this 1.2620 level, back into this previous support and resistance area. So dollar CAD is bullish. Euro Swiss franc here, we have had a nice big drop here. This one is bearish. So in terms of target, 1.1470 is a good target for this one. And in terms of pullback, so right now we are back into the support and resistance area. It could go higher all the way into 1.1580 level and then drop, or it could just get stuck at the pivot point and then drop. But the bias is based on the daily candle closes to the downside, and I'm looking for it to go to 1.1470 level here. Pound Swiss franc, we have had a huge drop in this one. So the bias is to the downside in this, but we could see price pull up. Doesn't look like it's wanting to do too much of that. It is more bearish than Euro Swiss franc. So in this case, I am looking at, so this is what I'm looking at. So looking for price to drop, bias is down to the downside, and target would be 1.2890. So let's say 1.2900, And in this case, we are again pulling back into the pivot point. So if it stays below pivot point, I'm looking for it to drop further. But we could get a deeper pullback into this support and resistance level right over here. So we have to watch out for that, which is also our R1 level, so about 1.3100 level. But the bias is to the downside. We may just get a pullback just into the pivot and then a drop from there. So looking bearish. Dollar Swiss franc here. Right now, so we have a bearish pin bar here, so looking for it to drop, and the target here would be 0.9250 level, so bottom of this candle here. So just looking for it to drop further. This shows rejection, so looking for a move to the downside for dollar Swiss franc as well. Pound CAD here. Pound CAD, we have a bearish candle close. So this could move lower, but pound is, so dollar CAD is bullish as well. So we'll have to see with the relative weakness between the two, but it hasn't been able to break this high. It's a lower high than previous high. So that suggests that price is likely to move lower. It is going sideways here though. So in this case, looking for basically price to come back into 1.7520 area here. Or slightly over 30 area, and then drop from there. It could go test the high here at 1.7560 as well. So one of those areas it would be looking for price to basically drop off of, because pound is weak as well, so it's Canadian dollar. So we'll have to see which one ends up being weaker, but the bias here is to the downside as well. Pound yen, unfortunately, we had a big drop. I was looking for this drop but not all in one day, and not on the day that we weren't trading, but that's just how things are. So pound yen, it is looking bearish. We could get pullbacks now though. So 153.50 area, if you get a pullback into that area, looking for basically this type of a move. So this is bearish. But my concern here is that it has dropped so much in a single day. So it's just sort of hard to take a trade after such a big drop. So I would like to see a pullback. However, it is sitting low. So there is this inefficient move. It would be nice for it to get filled so we could take this trade either here, 153.80, or at 153.50. But it may not pull back if the momentum still looks like it's to the downside. So for this one, I'm looking for a drop into 150.30 level. So that may be wishful thinking, looking for a pullback. But as long as it stays below pivot, it will be, the bias is to the downsides. But the daily candle is very, very bearish. Same thing with Euro Yen. Daily candle, very, very bearish. It would be nice to see some sort of a pullback here. So the bias is to the downside in this, and the next target would be 133.00. And in this case, this I just don't like this inefficient move, because a lot of times it can get filled. It would be nice if it gets filled, because we could look for a short at the top here, 136.26. But right now, looks like there is still momentum to the downside, so we could just get a drop. So we'll have to see when we come to our desk in the morning. But the bias is to the downside. 133 is our target to the downside here. That's a huge move for the pound. So we started. So that's 230 pips. That's quite a move. So it looks like it still wants to drop though. Aussie yen here, again, huge drop in Aussie yen. That's still looking bearish, but we do have RBA coming up, so we have to be mindful of that. So here, looking for price to drop. First target is 85.50, and second target would be 86.60 level to the downside. Those are the two targets there. So bias is to the downside. Dollar yen, bias to the downside here as well. We are looking for price to drop further. So the daily candle close is very bearish. It didn't go, it just pulled back into this previous level here, and then it's dropping now. Looking for 108.20 level here, and then further 107.20. So first target is 108.20 for tonight. And last one here, CAD yen, big drop in this one as well. So all the all the yen crosses have taken a big hit here. With this one, looking for a further drop, and 85.65 level will be the target to the downside. So this is looking weak as well. So it looks like these yen crosses still, they are looking to drop. Any of these Aussie yen or CAD yen would have been a nice trade, but we do have the RBA, which could change things for Australian dollar here. So may not be the best one to take a trade on, but this one here, we do have about 75 pips. And it is staying below the pivot here. It's holding this support resistance level. So we could do a little, we're still looking at about 45 pips in. So ideally, I would like to see a pullback here, either into 109.70 or 109.50, but looks like it wants to push lower. Okay, so I will think about this, and I may send out a trade, but I'm just reluctant because we have seen such a big drop in all the yen crosses, and when we have inefficient moves, they could go and fill that inefficiency. So, okay, so we'll call it a wrap for now. I'm going to take a look at it and just kind of watch the price for a little bit, and we'll see if there is a potential for opportunity for a trade. If not, we'll just wait till the London session and see what sets up for us then. All right, any questions or anything to add before we call it a wrap? All right, so that's it for now. I will see you guys in the morning then. Bye for now.